Roles of a denizen. A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A lair owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community lair. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their lair. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
Hey, welcome to the DENDAO governance call for June 15th, 2023. I am Dave, or Distant, as you would see me on Den, and I'm here with Joe, or Joe Dragon, as you would see him on Den.
Hello.
How's it going, Joe?
I'm all right. I'm tired.
That's good. Yeah. Well, it's Thursday, so we've had plenty of time to wear ourselves out for the week. Tired happens. So we've got an agenda posted up over in the DENDAO layer on Den.Social, and in that agenda there is a link. I'll just pull it up here right now. There's a link in there, a little StreamYard link, where anybody can join. It's open to anybody who wants to talk about Den. You can post, you can join and literally just pop on and talk to us. You can post a reply. If you hit the reply button, it'll pop you to a reply window, and you can type in it and then hit submit, and then it goes into that post as a reply, and we can look at it and read it, and then we'll talk about it. That's how that works. And then there's also YouTube chat. If you're watching on YouTube, you can chime in there, and we'll see it. So those are the ways that you can interact, and it's the same thing every week. Real quick, we've got a summary of the agenda. 2023, we have the June 23 LCP commitment phase has started. You can vote on stuff. We'll talk about what that is, how that's going in a second. We'll look at it and see where things are landing. The DIN independence and ability to pay hosting and maintenance. That's related to a question that's in the reply section already. There is an ongoing Reddit community blackout, an API blackout protest, and we can discuss why DIN is designed the way that it is, or DENDAO is. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks now. And then, of course, any community input or feedback that's left over that we haven't hit along the way, we will get at the end of the call. Yeah. So there's what we're going to do. Now let's go back to the top and do it. So LCP is open. Let's see who's winning. I can tell you who's going to win. It's going to be the number one by each category is going to win. Each category meaning unique voters and total votes. If you open up, actually before I do that, if you open up the DIN layer, if you go to Discover Layers at Den.Social and you scroll down to DIN, you'll see these posts, these automated posts that come out called Snapshot. And it says total tokens. These are lore payouts. Right. So as you use DIN, you accumulate matter, or MTR. And as you hold that matter and you earn it, you will get awarded lore for the behavior of having the matter, or earning it, or buying it, or however you're acquiring it, that kind of thing. And there's some other line items on here too. You can get it for holding dragons, or lore also gets you some lore. And then the lot has a payout too. But most importantly, you get lore for doing stuff on DIN, just for being here and playing along. And the reason for that is we want to give votes, or the ability to own the platform, to those who are participating, who are here to build with us. So when you get those, you can swing by over here to where I was first starting to go now, which is the LCP section, and you can vote on stuff. So if you like animals, you can take some of that lore you've been earning and you can vote for animals. So right now, if animals were to win, which it looks like it's in number 1 in this category, right? If I think, oh, animals is going to win, I like animals. I live with an animal. Maybe I want some of that. So right now, if it were to win, I would own 0.65% of that. Maybe I think that's too little. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to earn some more, and I'll just start typing numbers in here followed by zeros, and you'll see that number go up a little bit, and it's like, 6.71. That sounds good, and I vote for that, and boom, now I have more lore committed to this proposal, and if it wins, each one of those lore that I committed, right now I'm signaling 110,000. Each one of those will get turned into a layer ownership token. And it's 1 for 1, and then depending on how well the animals layer does, I earn matter that's generated inside of that layer. And then if you go back to where I started on this, earning matter gets you lore, rinse and repeat. And you do that every single month. That's the LCP contest, and voting's open for 1 week a month. So there's my spiel on LCP.
So what are standings right now? We have unique.
Oh, I was wrong. Animals was number 2. I might have to vote for it some more. Philosophy, though. Philosophy is number 1 by lore committed. So you can see you can vote more than once. You can put more than 1 lore in, right? So this category is by how, regardless of how many people, is by the number of lore committed. So number 1 is philosophy layer. And then by unique voter, though, wrestling. Wrestling.
Wow.
I continue to be surprised at how popular wrestling is.
Let me see if I do have some wrestling. I remember the days in the 80s. So
I know I used to, it is a pastime thing for me. I never necessarily was into it,
no.
but my aunt would babysit me when I was a kid. She would watch me so I didn't get in trouble. People had to do that or I would get in trouble. And she watched not wrestling, but wrestling.
Yes.
She watched wrestling.
Yeah, my great grandma did. So that was always fun.
Watch wrestling. I loved The Undertaker. All that dark shit. I was into it when I was a kid. So, but yeah, wrestling, all wrestling entertainment. Now I don't know the difference between all wrestling entertainment, World Wrestling Entertainment, World Wrestling Federation. I don't know all those different things, but I do know that there's a lot of there's a bunch of people without shirts and they throw down, man. They jump all over each other. So it's fun.
Yep.
It's a fun one.
So we're headed in our probably in Congress, right? So in the end.
President Camacho or something. Yeah. That's what we need.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah. There we go.
People used to fret. It's like, I can't believe that's becoming true. But I think the more true it is, probably we'll be better off than we are right now.
This, to be honest with you, this is the kind of like back and forth, this discussion. This is the kind of thing that we should be able to talk about. This is what DEN's for. It's for making fun of your government and talking about how there's parallels between what Mike Judge wrote as comedy, satire, and apparently a warning, and how close it is to reality today, without being censored for doing that. You know what I mean? So what better example?
Yep.
I'm sold. I want more wrestling now. All right. So if it were to stop right now, you see wrestling would win as the first number 1 by unique voters. There's 33 denizens who voted for it. The next up is Dragon Chain Social Dragon Chain Social Influencers, which if you vote on, I'm curious who proposed this. If you click on the name here, you can see Jared. Jared proposed this one. Yeah. So this is for people to coordinate. I would imagine it would be similar, or maybe even work in parallel or compete with the layer that does exist. That's called, what is it? Marketing strategy by denizens. That's a layer that exists, right?
I was thinking that. Oh, that's right.
So it's probably similar in concept.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
So there's that. And
maybe it's Den versus Dragon Chain. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
True. Two different things. So all wrestling, who was that? That was Dude. That proposed that. Now let's go look at the top two from lore real quick because I'm curious now. Philosophy was from I Am for I Am.
Yes, I really want philosophy to be. I think we need it. I was looking. There are some things like
and Aladito was the proposer for animals. Philosophy, yeah. You know, there's another layer called systems theory that I was really unfamiliar. I didn't know what it meant, but I read about it, and it sounds like different systems of organizing society and civilizations and governments and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one too. You know, like for example, this. How can you organize this? Like, how do you take this? How do you take all this meat, this sentient meat, and make it work? Well enough to not die off completely. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so this is a layer systems theory, I think, that is based on like what are all the different ways you could do that, and how have they been shown to work or not work in the past. So that's an interesting one. Shower thoughts, of course. These are all way down here, but
especially with that. I don't know when the segue is, but the Reddit stuff. It might be an opportune moment to look at what Reddit communities might be in, because you might be able to pull some people over. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Like I have lost either the skill or the ability or the they give a shit to talk to Redditors, because I've tried so many times, and I come off as a shill because, of course, right? I'm saying, hey, you're Reddit and you love Reddit, but hey, we have this other thing that's like, it's kind of like Reddit, but there's like not all these things that suck about Reddit, or that at least that's how we think about it. Mm-hmm. Maybe you wouldn't think of it that way, but you still, like, I don't know how to talk to people without them being like, ban.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, because there's always somebody with their finger on a button that's like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Which is, you know, we have that here as well, except you are always the person with the finger on the button, and it has to be more than one person who's pressing that button.
People, not me, but you.
The us, the denizen. We, the individual, the whoever you are, the denizen.
I mean, I had thought, I'll wait till we get to the Reddit thing. I don't know what.
Well, we're pretty close to that now, actually. So that's basically, there's 4.5 days left in the LCP, right? So if you see this counter at the top, that counts down to 0. Time's up. You can't vote anymore until next month. So just what to remember is to get your votes in before then, and one from each category will win. If it doesn't win, the one you want doesn't win. Like, you know, if you really wanted vegan layer, then if it's second runner up, you can pay, I think it's 400 or something matter. You can pay a fee, a matter-based fee. All this matter you've been earning by using Den, you can just use that to pay for the creation of a layer. And then, of course, you can pay more to create anything, all the way down to right now it's building, construction, and trades, because it has 8 unique voters. Anything with more than 8 unique voters is able to be created for a matter fee as well. So that's the LCP contest. Now, with Reddit,
yes,
that is not next in line, but let's jump there anyway. Yeah. Because that actually, so let's talk about that. Once we do finally get a published API reference with the ability to, the most important thing is the ability for someone to apply for access to the auth system, so they can have not only people logging in with their app, but also new user registration with their app through our auth system. Then you could do things like, let's say you have, let's say the vegan layer wins, right? And you want to integrate, you want to make an app just for that, because you don't care about wrestling, but you are really into PETA or something. And so PETA themselves wants to make a forum that is just for vegan people. and they can use Den to do that in a way that does not, like, they could package an app, white label it basically. They can call it PETA Vegans, and it could only display the vegan layer inside of it. And maybe they package a bunch of other stuff around it as well that has nothing to do with Den, but Den is used then as their forum for their app, right? You have the public forum inside their app. So you can do things like package a subsection of Den, one layer, or something like that. You know what I mean? Also, people who would like Den to be presented differently could use Den.Social as a reference design, but then they could write their own website or their own app to display it however they want.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about that does bleed into the topic of going offshore and stuff is you could also use that to design your own server that bridges Den with something like Tor or LokiNet or I2P or GNU-net or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that lets anybody who says, you know what, I know how to do this. Why don't you just do this? I could just do this. Well, now you could just do it if we have that published. That's the idea there.
And the two things I wanted to cover were, it's likely a long shot because some of the same reasons you mentioned, but let's say that Bacon Reader or Reddit is fun, Golden Platinum. I think that's what it's called. That, maybe that developer would be game to say, well, hell, I was going to quit. So why not just go ahead and just plug in my app into Den instead?
Yeah. Things like the Reddit enhancement suite who uses Reddit's API. Some of these apps are going to incur, I've heard $20 million per year in API access fees. And that is not doable. That's not sustainable. You can't do that.
Most of them I've heard are closing down. There was a new one I'd never heard of. I saw a post today that it's going to shut down totally. Yeah. So I'm just like, there might be an opportunity there where we say, hey, you guys want to create apps for Den, and that I mentioned on the update show. I'm super happy. There might be. I'm open myself. It's a DENDAO question, but it would seem a reasonable thing to me to potentially put in some mining monetization in there where if you build an app and you bring enough users, or you integrate your app and you bring enough users, you get part of the mining. I don't know, but there could be some interesting things done there, right? Anyway, that's a different question.
Assuming you've got a team that wants to build something and you have the question of what can I do with this, and how can my community benefit? The answer is kind of whatever you want. Let us know what we need to do to support that.
Right. Because most of those apps, you're talking
just need developers.
Obviously, different API. Obviously, a unique voting widget. It's not just an up or down, but it would be just like what we have, an up with a slider or something similar, right? They would have a few modifications, but quite a bit of it would be very similar. The subreddits or layers, and they might put an LCP.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It wouldn't really be too much work to pull one over.
It would be a retrofit basically of the existing code base.
And I haven't looked. There might, maybe one or two of them are open source, and it could even be, whoever wants to do it could. I don't know, right?
I know. Right now, we're working on a couple of things. One of which is like taking up a lot of time. A couple of which are slowing us down, but it's really important. And we talked a little bit about that before this meeting, actually. And because of the focus on that, you need to bring your own developers. We can facilitate and open up the API. And if you need custom APIs, if you need something that we don't have, it's pretty straightforward to create an API that you can hit that serves up what you need. Data from Den's blockchain, data from that you need to display in your app or access like that. So, yeah, really exciting stuff. But it's not like we can have all the best ideas in the world, but you got to bring some developers to build it.
It looks like there is Infinity for Reddit. I've never heard of it, but it's a feature-rich Reddit client for Android. I don't know if it's cross platform or not, but anyway, something like that.
Yeah, even the URL structure, we have, instead of r/, we have l/.
Yeah, it's all very,
it would not, obviously wouldn't have any of the wallet or governance features, and probably not the settings either. But for basic forum functionality, yeah, it's probably pretty straightforward to at least get that part going. And because it's all public, you could even do a view only one if you wanted, if that was interesting enough for just a reader.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention on the DENDAO call from a question on Tuesday in the AMA was specifically the reason that DENDAO exists and the reason that it's modeled the way it is. I still am a huge believer that, in crypto, the big question with governance has always been, well, how do you protect against whales? Because a millionaire could come in to your project, which competes with his, and could take over your project and essentially destroy it, even anonymously, and you would have no recourse. But with the behavior model, it's interesting because they would have to come in and do all the token stuff that they already would know how to do. So it's going to cost them money, but they're also going to have to do all of the things that help the network in order to get to
that's the part that's hard to talk to people about, especially somebody who's trying to understand like what the benefit of building a social platform, a publishing platform in this way is, and how to, how it does protect against things like somebody coming in and taking over. Is that you kind of like, you don't prevent it. And that sounds counterintuitive, but you don't focus on preventing it.
Right.
You focus on making it, number one, really expensive or difficult or self-sabotaging to do, right? And enriching to the community that you're doing something to. So think of it as, I think of it as like, if this is war, which all life on Earth is, apparently, then in order to attack your enemy, you have to enrich them and help them, which they can then use as resources to develop protections against your attack. All the while, you have to assume that if you're successful in your attack or your takeover, that you're going to then destroy the value that you've invested into it because you've just broken it.
Yeah.
So because of those things, it's just like, it's like a natural system that is able to just live.
Like say, I especially, it's a small network still. So it would be relatively cheap to come in and buy enough matter. Now, it would increase the price of matter, but I could easily see an attacker, hired by Zuckerberg, come in and spend $2 million to do that and throw it away. It doesn't matter. All they were there to do was destroy it. But the behavior side, even without any concern about how much it costs, you have to do things that make the network valuable, kind of content rich, or make it work.
That's a good point, because if you look at how DENDAO is set up, you have the three categories, and one of them is going out and buying up some tokens. Just one of them, right? The other two are either the founder vote, or you've got to generate matter, or you've got to own layers that generate matter, meaning you have to promote the layers activity enough to where it's really doing well and you're earning a lot of matter from it as the owner, as the lot holder, to get that vote. Which is something that nobody else is doing.
And the reason is because we've seen what happened. If anybody remembers what happened with Dig in the early, I think it was the early 2000s or mid 2000s, where the corporates, someone either VCs or corporate took over, who really didn't care about the community or how it worked. They just wanted to own it and wanted to siphon money out of it. So they took it over and changed everything. And all the users are like, this is not what I came here for. So they all left, right? The same thing has happened multiple times with Reddit, because they never can figure out how to make money. So somebody comes in and invests in it thinking they're going to be able to make money, and then everybody protests. And it's a dysfunctional community because of that, where the owners have very different drivers than the community is. And so what we wanted to establish is, founder. And frankly, if I had to rename it again today, I would probably call it builder, so we can open it up to people who are building stuff on the system. But then you have the owner vote, which half of which is behavior based upon the communities in LCP and otherwise that you've created. The other half is liquidity of lore. The creator is the amount of matter that you've produced either in content creation or evaluation, and then the other half is liquidity of matter. So it's really well apportioned in a way that, effectively you could get the lore holders teaming up with the two pools of liquidity providers.
This is what I was going to ask you. Is okay. You know what? An interesting, probably a pretty quick thought experiment is, how do you take over DENDAO? What is the way to do it? You'd have to coordinate between, like you were saying, owners, creators, people that provision liquidity for lore and matter. Another way to frame that question that's less loaded, I guess, or antagonistic would be, how do you increase your personal voting weight in DENDAO?
Yep.
And to do that, you can do things like earn matter, acquire matter in any way that you feel like however you want to do that. You want to earn it? Cool. You want to go buy it? It's a thing you can do. You want to, which by the way, you can hold it in self-custody with just a claimed wallet. You don't have to deposit it to get the weight. Yep. Take the matter you have earned and put it into liquidity, right? Same thing with lore. Put the lore into liquidity. That gives you more governance vote. That's a behavior we want to promote. Owning a layer that does very well as far as like activity, people spending energy inside the layer, having a thriving community layer as a layer owner does a lot to give you voting weight. And that's probably the hardest one too.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest one to like increase your, that's the most competitive, I guess, right? Because you're literally saying across the entire board, how much matter am I earning from just lot emissions, right? From being a layer owner across my layers that I own. If you can get even a couple of your layers to the point where you get new people coming in, they just care about that layer. Maybe it's just your tabletop friends or something like that, and that layer's cooking. Like there's quality content, people are coming in to check it out. Maybe it's the current news layer and you own part of it, so you're like, this is going to be, you know what, let's do this. And people start coming there for the news because they know it's probably going to show up here first. Then you're going to get a lot of the voting weight in not just that layer. I mean, the whole website, DENDAO itself. That's the behavior of being, of operating a successful layer. That's a behavior that gets you voting weight. So those kinds of things. So those are all the ways. Those are all the things.
So cool.
Maybe that should be a video. How to take over Den.
That would actually be awesome. That'd be cool.
Cool.
I like it.
Let me go back to the agenda here. So I don't know the best way to approach using the Reddit fiasco with their API. I was catching up on TechLinked, which is something I should probably start posting those to the tech news layer now that I think about it. But anyway, the Linus Tech Tips channel does a TechLinked show, and it's like 10 minutes, and they're just like, "Pah, pah, 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 here's all the stuff going on." And they've got one about the Reddit thing, and there was an internal email leak from the CEO where he was basically downplaying it and saying, "Oh, it'll be over by Wednesday. It's whatever. It's not really hurting our bottom line. We're not seeing any negative consequences from advertisers at this point, so it's not really a big deal for us. But just maybe don't wear your Reddit merch out in public right now because people might attack you." So as long as our bottom line's good, you might get attacked in public, but as long as our bottom line's good, we actually don't care. So it's fascinating to see how that is playing out in real time. I'll post that later just so you guys can see it. It's really interesting. Wow. So yeah, I don't know how to approach other, especially when they're blacked out. I don't know how to approach those communities to communicate with their owners or moderators.
That's why I think the biggest opportunity, even though it might be a stretch in some of those cases, would be to approach the devs that otherwise are just going to, give up and walk away, right? Say, hey, here's an opportunity to, bring those people in this. We probably have enough communities. Yeah. I don't know. It would be at least, talking to someone that you wouldn't have to worry about being, frankly, a Redditor. I know what you mean. We've tried several times to be, polite and go over and try to, hey, what do you guys think about this? It's like,
Yeah. I got kicked out of like the cryptocurrency layer for talking about cryptocurrency.
Yes, subreddit.
Or not, subreddit, that kind of thing. So it's like, I don't know. There's still some amazing communities over there, like Photoshop battles and some of the cult following ones, like Birds with Arms and stuff like that. It's just silly.
The ones that have remained less serious, where politics and all that, those are great.
They're just on the internet having fun, like we always have been. And it's just like, it's ridiculous. That's why we're here. Sure. Awesome. Yeah. So something to think about. If anybody wants to take it upon themselves to contact them and you get positive feedback.
Yeah,
I'm available. We're here to.
I would get bounties too. Yeah. It's like if you can pull something, you will be accounted for, somehow. So,
So this next item, we'll jump back up to it. So we went down to the Reddit API thing. We'll jump up to this item because it directly relates to what IAM4IAM wrote in the replies. So DEN independence and ability to pay for hosting and maintenance. In the reply section, so this is combined with community feedback at this point. So if you want to chime in with something, now's the time to go ahead and do that. IAM4IAM, we talked a little bit about offshoring DENDAO, basically. One of the things that we talked about was looking at, you think of the internet as something that just exists in the world globally, especially if you live in the US. It seems ubiquitous, but it's not. So we have to do things like look at, the hosting infrastructure and where that's located geographically. That's a question. Yeah. If there needs to be a business component registered with some government entity in some country. We did talk either last time or the time before about how to select that. What's the word? Domicile or something. Yeah. How to select that, what the important attributes are, and how to select it, why to pick one country over the other, that kind of thing. So we've talked a little bit about that. Let me just read some of what IAM4IAM has written here. A topic I would like to have on the agenda each week is moving DENDAO offshore. Much of this AI response we can check off as completed. To be honest, this was too basic and we are beyond this. Having said that, here are some details. So what I like about I like a lot of what IAM4IAM has posted to Den with relation to conversations he has had with some of these AI chatbots. Because I think it's interesting and it is sometimes really good. I haven't read this one yet though, so let's see. So AI response, setting up a DAO. I think he must have asked how to do it, right? Yeah. So define the purpose and scope, determine the goals,
activities, functions, scope.
Choose a blockchain platform. Den uses, right now we use 3 of them. It is whenever you're spending energy and stuff like that, you're doing that on DEN's blockchain, which is a Dragon Chain platform blockchain. So you can say it's using Dragon Chain, where dragons are spent, the license fee is used on Dragon Chain. It is also using Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ethereum for the ability to withdraw, the decentralization of the tokens, to be able to withdraw them, do whatever you want outside of the Den platform. And then Bitcoin for measurable proof, and being able to point to a Bitcoin block where a post had, let's say you create a post today, it gets hashed into a Bitcoin block that you can then point at and say, here's how this data existed. Digital sort of, what did I say in the past? Digital tamper seal on your posts. Yeah. So you can prove, no, this is what I said and how I said it. I didn't, whatever that is a lie. This is how I said it. And you can prove that. Yeah. So that's how right now we've done that. We've selected that. Consider we've considered this, and this is what I am was saying, that this has all been done basically too. So draft the DAO's governance framework. This is our behavioral governance system that we have, criteria for membership, participation, and stakeholder rights. Some of that applies. Consensus mechanisms, of course, all that's operational. Create smart contracts. This has been done and is operational. Tokens, deployment, launching. Now, onboarding. Onboarding, here's where we are. Here's where I would say we are. Onboarding and ongoing governance and maintenance. Here's where we are. So in this plan, this is the hard part. This is the cold start. This is the here's something. Now, how do we get people to, more people to use it? So what does it say about that? Announce the launch of the DAO, establish mechanisms for onboarding new members and stakeholders, including token distribution, governance participation. Some of that we haven't done yet. For example, the sweat equity portion of the white paper, where if somebody wanted to, like, if you look at Den, like something that's like, hey, how can I use, let's say you're a creator and you pay your bills as a creator. How can I use this to make money? Well, you can look at Den as something that you need to own some of to be able to profit from it. That's something that we can offer to creators who can bring in people that think that they can onboard their community to it, right? In other words, the better you do, the more of it you can own, more of Den that you can own. And that can extend even to the founder tokens as well.
Right.
But we haven't really done all of that. And then this is something I have failed to produce, which is providing educational resources to support and help participants understand and engage with the DAO. We have documents. Yeah, I'm kind of an old guy, though. I read. And so in my mind, like, the FAQ's there, but it's huge. It can be daunting to sort through for somebody who's trying to, like, we don't have like clickbaity nugget videos, right? Which is what I think. And I've gone back and forth about this in my head. On one hand, like, all right, what kind of crowd do we want to bring? On the other hand, that's a reality of 2023 is like, this is how people learn now, is you have to have this like engaging, fast-paced, short attention span, concise video that says the one thing. And if you want to make a bunch of points and explain a bunch of things, you got to have like 300 videos. Each of them can be taken a la carte as people want to digest them. And whether or not I agree with that being how things should be, I think that's kind of how things are. So that's something that we could definitely focus on. And then ongoing governance and maintenance is the last part of this, which is pretty self-explanatory. So good question, good post, and it is something that we should keep in mind. Like, where are we? Let's say that there's nothing else to add to this, which there is, but let's say this is the plan. It is good to remind ourselves where we are and what we haven't. There's already some things that we could specifically work on in this plan. So first, thanks for posting that. I am. Second, what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't answer. It'd be nice if the AI would tell us, you need to set up shop here. right? It would have been the
Yeah, I think
that's
this
what
is how to
he asked
launch
for.
a DAO. I don't think he asked how to migrate it to like
where
to
should we
go,
move it?
kind of thing.
And then second, the other thing that I think that he's super interested in, and others, that we probably, maybe we need to have a DENDAO call where we can make sure everybody's available, even if we have to move the time. And we get all of them on a call and we say, hey, okay, how can we do this? How can we make this more independent? I mean, Den has some money in the bank, not much, but it has some. It has, right now, Dragon Chain's kind of paying the bill for, a lot of the little expenses and stuff. And we have multi-sig. We have plans to plug in some of the funding side for people developing later, stuff like that. But how would we start it? Like, who would? The biggest problem, I think, is you, I, several other people are really busy trying to get some really high priority stuff completed. So we haven't had the time we would like to have on this. But if there's some movement there, I would definitely, I would put in my, the time that I would need to, like, how do I say, plug in, with the vision, so that, it's like I've considered every nook and cranny on this system over these years several times. So I kind of have a feel for, and occasionally new ideas pop up, and that's when it's great. But I can say, okay, but you need to think about X, and we thought about Y, and here's why we didn't do it. That type of stuff would be useful. But if any of these people want to come in or bring other people in, it would be amazing.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is that we're at a place now where DIN works. It's proven. There's a lot of things you can do with it. And if you have a team and you have some resources and you want to compete, and you want to build something fast, and you want to skip a lot of the early development things that are required for, maybe you're launching a DAO, maybe you're launching some other product that needs governance or needs a community that needs a forum and that kind of thing. If your entire Reddit subreddit is throwing in the towel permanently and you need a new home, and you have people to help build that, that's where Joe and myself and a couple of others, even though we have so many other things taking up time, that's where we can say, okay, we can't spend time on everything, but if somebody is going to amplify our time by adding, their time to it, this is where we can focus, and we can definitely make time for that.
And let's say, and I don't, like, call it, let's say of the people who are often on the call, let's say 2 or 3 of them get together. They produce a deck. They talk to us. They'll go and get someone that would put money in, would put leadership in, even on some of the different points, to get a couple of things built. Let's say they decide, hey, you know what, we want to make a how do I want to say this, a turnkey governance system for neighborhoods, right? Like, where you could sell this to every neighborhood in the U.S., low fee, and they could come in and they have a place to discuss what's going. Somebody who has their grass is too long, they have a place they can vote on whatever they need to vote on. As an example, you could build that, and it could be built on top of DIN. It could be the way that DIN gets its funding to do the things that it does. So it's essentially, it's almost like you need some combination of either fund, people with energy and time, or some stellar vision that is going to take DIN where we all know it could go so many different directions. And it can, by the way, it can go a lot of different directions simultaneously. It doesn't have to drop what it is to do these things. It can literally plug in, like, what you described for the white label community app. If it was all governance focused, it can do all of those
You could even do that with a private layer so that other people on
Right.
Den can't see your layer.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
kind of
and
thing.
there's so many avenues and so many ways to do it. It's very flexible. It's the Dragon Chain side. It's the reason it's built that way. And it's more than anything. It just maybe we need to get together and talk about it and say, well, maybe we could slowly start moving this way and see if we get anybody interested, and then accelerate. I don't know. And then on top of that, depending upon what happens with some of these other projects, hopefully in 6 months I'll have more time and we'll have more funding that we can.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. Just to zoom back out a little bit, I'm interested to see what happens with the events in the U.S. right now, with the things that are happening with the discussion around what does it mean for the the internal Hinman emails to be public now. How is that going to be used for legal teams? How has for example, the Ripple case is really interesting.
Yeah,
because if I'm being honest, I've never really cared about Ripple in the past, but I see now this enormous value in just the legal sphere on how everything's being brought to the courts now. Everybody's being raked over the coals, ourselves included. And what I'm really interested in is this is maybe the lazy response, but I'm in sort of this wait and see mode where I'm like, okay, I don't know what the move is right now, but it looks like something's going to come out of this in the next year.
Yeah.
One way or the other, and it looks like additionally that the 2024 presidential elections are going to coincide with a lot of that.
And it's an actual issue at that level, which is crazy. A lot of us back
that
in
is
the early
crazy
days.
That is nuts. That this is something. This is the conversation.
I would not have thought it would be at this level this fast, nor, as can be evidenced by my actions, would I have ever thought that it would have been so threatening to the powers that be that they would come after what I built. I could totally see them coming after something that's going to replace the US dollar or some currency focused.
Right. But you were like, okay, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to do something completely unrelated to finance and money.
Yeah.
So that I don't step on those toes, basically. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And still. Yeah. No, it's so, I don't know. I think, you already have, and we won't drag this out into like political hour or anything like that, but it is interesting to see that there is one side of the proverbial aisle in the U.S. is typically more pro free market, and because of that, pro cryptocurrency and blockchain and decentralization, right? Decentralization is the thing overall. And then the other side, I am curious if they will begin to understand that this could lose them the election if they don't reverse course.
And a lot of philosophical alignment with a lot of people, because the sad thing about it is it's crazy to me that it is political, especially since we have a uniparty. This would be one thing that I would think. It's like the internet. I mean, is one party going to be against the internet? It's silly.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of what this is like. Yeah.
And when you look at it, I'm hoping that it wakes up both, the party, but then also the people that are blindly deciding, oh, I'm red or I'm blue, to see that that's not really what this is about. I mean, this is about your ability to do something without asking.
The reason I think that's important, maybe like because this is a DENDAO call, but the reason I think that's important in this conversation is that really, the reason that applies to this call, that I'm interested in all of that, is that I want to see what would happen if that stopped. If the attacks stopped and that this was something that was allowed to be built in the U.S., if then the phone would start ringing.
Oh yeah,
Then people will be like, oh, okay, let's roll. Here's funding. Let's build this. Let's do that. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
because that was happening for a while.
Oh, totally. And
then ice was put on it.
Yep. Once that came out, we've been told literally that that various organizations and businesses really couldn't seriously consider doing business with because of that. And I will say to those people, I mean, Frank, it's shameful. It disgusts me. If I saw a technology that would help my customers and my shareholders do something better, I damn well figure out how to do it, because it's not illegal. And separately, and I would never, if they came back after this is over and said, "Oh, hey Joe, now we can talk to you," it's like, go fuck yourself. I'm talking to your competitor. Thank you very much. Or I've made a competitor. But even before that happened, everyone was skittish about, oh, is blockchain? I don't know. And it was there's this fear about it, which is just bizarre to me.
That's
like
less
new tech.
That's less now, though. Even with all of this that's going full on with the SEC and with Congress around blockchain and decentralization and things like that, even with that saturating the airwaves, being spun the way that it's spun, people are it seems to me that people are at least interested on, like, okay, what is all this stuff? I was talking today. So John from Coffee and who hosts World Blockchain is in Italy, and there's a conference over there that he's not attending, but his wife is, and so he's rubbing elbows with a bunch of doctors. And he texted me today, and he's like, "Hey, I'm over here. There's all these doctors asking me what blockchain is. Can you give me and explain like I'm 5 to, like, Right. So there's curiosity is my point. There's more curiosity than fear. There's more curiosity than like, oh, I read this one thing that somebody said on the internet, and so now I'm going to I'm going to die on this hill that I don't understand. There's not as much of that.
Yep. And I do know, and frankly, again, it could be very helpful for Den, but that, from mine, it's anecdotal, but the people I've spoken to in France, the people I've spoken to in Britain, the people I've spoken to in Italy, the people I've spoken to especially in Switzerland, and
maybe that's a reason, like I am said, maybe that is a reason to keep bringing this offshoring DENDAO thing up every freaking week, because
it's an odd thing to me.
Outside of the U.S., people are like, I don't know what y'all are doing, but
they're like watching us with some what seems to be, why are you doing that? Okay, we're going to, and a lot of them have seen it as a really good opportunity to build some business. So smart, right?
Yeah. I mean, so maybe that's something we can piggyback on that and talk about it more. Because I suspect I Am is not somebody who talks out of his ass. So I suspect that he's really interested in doing this and making sure that we keep talking about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I want to make sure everybody knows this is Den. So this is not me. This is not Dave. If you have something, you really have a drive, it'll be a DENDAO vote, depending on what happens, but by all means, take it, I mean, we'll all go along with, right?
That's my dream. And this is how I'll just, because we'll wrap up with this, maybe begin wrapping up with this. My dream for Den is for it to be a thing that exists, that's just out there, that exists, that people can use however they want. And that it's more and more and more decentralized, the more successful it gets. And as it grows, it will naturally become more decentralized. And as this technology, this decentralization technology matures, including the question of hosting and where to domicile and where to host IT infrastructure for it, becomes more decentralized. There was even Greg even mentioned, hey, what if you domicile in a metaverse or in a, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and there actually are. There's at least one option I've heard.
Can you domicile in a metaverse? That kind of thing.
It might not be recognized, but you can still do it. So
can we domicile on Mars once SpaceX goes and plants a flag? What do you got to do? You got to have a human there. They plant a flag, and then it's like, hey, Mars, it's mine.
Couldn't it be a sentient robot? A Tesla robot or something? Right?
I don't know the answer to that. So that's what I want to do. Like, there's stuff we could, even if we had all the finances, if we had all the funding and we had 100,000 really talented developers and all the money in the world, I would still want to do the weird stuff that was like, okay, what's not been done, and what can we do that's like resilient and makes this part of, I don't know. I have this weird idea of decentralized infrastructure being just a part of nature and a part of human evolution. That's something that's just like an environmental trait, that exists without it being something that some company owns. Maybe I'm a commie, I don't know, but that's something that I love the idea of. Is this like, we all own it, we all are part of it. So anyway, that is to say, yes, the goal is to make Den that.
I saw a quote this week that I'm trying to, because it's funny. It's a mix, black pill with white pill, and it's because of who it comes from. Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, really?
Never lose hope.
The Unabomber?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never lose, and it's like, this is very un-Ted-like. Never lose hope. Be persistent and stubborn, and never give up. There are many instances in history where apparent losers suddenly turn out to be winners unexpectedly. So you should never conclude all hope is lost. Right?
Nice. Inspiring words, Ted.
I love it.
All right. Good for him.
Anyway.
In that one case. So, cool. So that's the DENDAO call. I will real quick shout out to our newest Australian, who now owns 128,000 lot for the Australia layer. So this is not somebody who has a bunch of time to commit to like creating content, making it exciting, and being the face of the layer, but lives in Australia. I've known them off and on through the internet for a while. Really smart dude, into decentralization, blockchain, Bitcoiner, stuff like that. And naturally knows some people in Australia. So he'll start mentioning it to them like, hey, there's an empty room over here. Let's fill it up and see what happens. And so I just wanted to say, if anybody else wants to bring their Australian friends in to try that experiment, I am handing out massive percentages of ownership to that layer because I have way too much of it, like in the 60+% range. All right.
I found I shared that on your tweet. I shared that Australia Man meme. I saw that. One I didn't post that was actually a comparison of Australia Man and Florida Man. And I thought,
oh, perfect. That sounds great. Yeah, so. I love, as a Florida man, I love that. I've seen once I saw Australia referred to as British rednecks or something like that, or the Southern British or something like that. And as somebody from southeastern U.S., I relate to that, and I'm like, actually, yeah, Crocs versus Gators. We both got a bunch. Like there's a whole thing, the accent, stuff like that.
That is brilliant. All right, I'm gonna see
cool.
if I can find it. I will get it to you. I know I have it on my phone somewhere.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's reconvene next time.
Right on.
All right. Here is Enter the Dragon from Y'all Weird. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. And I'll see you over the weekend on Den. Adios.
Bye, guys.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best. Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?